Hello, my name is John Reynolds. Welcome to Extraordinary Life Stories. On this episode, I'm talking with Surinder Arora. Surinder is the epitome of a true entrepreneur, founding the Arora Group in 1999, which he's grown into one of the UK's leading hotel operators, including the Sofitel at Heathrow. His portfolio includes luxury hotels, commercial properties, and development projects. Surinder was born in Punjab in India, moving to the UK at a young age and beginning his journey to becoming a billionaire. He's nowhere near done yet either with his ambitions. I want to know what else he is busy working on. So let's find out. Surinder, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Really nice to be here, John.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Same.
Tell me, who is Surinder Arora?
Gosh, there's lots of different parts of Surinda that, obviously coming to this country at the age of 13 and not knowing a word of English and really starting from scratch. And God's been kind, life's been kind, and here I am.
Here you are. Take me back to a younger Surinder. You started life in Punjab in India. You moved to the UK at 13. What early influences and who or what influenced you career-wise? What influenced you there?
I think obviously coming to the UK at the age of 13 and with nothing, and mum and dad were living in a little 3-bedroom terrace house, and they had some other lodges. So there was 8 of us living in a 3-bedroom terrace house in Southall. And both mum and dad were working in factories. So I guess the person who's had the most influence on me and someone I treasure and love and respect. I mean, sadly, I was a late mum. I lost her nearly 30 years ago this October. But she's still there as my hero and someone who really got to me where I am today.
Yeah. And what values did she kind of implement and pass on to you?
I think lots of values. Hard work pays off. Son, your name, your reputation, money can't buy. Fruit doesn't grow on tall trees. Keep your head down. Money can come and go. And, don't ever get big-headed, because we all come with nothing and we go with nothing.
It's amazing how important that is in terms of those early instilled values, and culture. And that's something I know you've ultimately taken right the way through your business. Now, so with those values and with those early influences, what ultimately sort of led you into the career, and which was very much property focused?
Yeah, so look, I started obviously as a junior clerk at the age of 18 with British Airways. Then had the ambition to become a pilot. I don't know why or how, but I did. But because I had no qualifications, so I wouldn't get anyone like British Airways or another carrier to sponsor me, so I had to pay for it myself, a bit like your driving lessons.
Sure.
And in those days, in 77, I was earning £34 a week at BA, and it was £21 an hour to learn to fly, which meant I could only have one lesson a week. So I then decided to go and do a bit of moonlighting in the evenings, and I went and got a job at the Penta Hotel, which is now the Renaissance, as a wine waiter. So I would do 9 to 5:30 in BA, put on my waiter's jacket at the hotel at 6 p.m. I worked there till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then back at BA the next morning.
How long did you do that for? Because that sounds exhausting.
So I did that from 77 till 82, and I did get my license. Thank God I didn't go into commercial flying, knowing what I know now. And then in 82, with the recession, there wasn't much work at the Penta Hotel. I got a job as a financial advisor working with Abbey Life from September 82 till 93. And I was always kind of driven. I remember I went to my first Christmas party in January 83. And now bear in mind that I joined Abbey in September 82, married my lovely Sunita, my young wife. I always used to tease her as a child bride, and I got told I mustn't call her child bride. And I then went to the first Christmas party, and because I'd only been there 3 or 4 months, and we were put right at the back of the room with Mr. Nobody, and I saw in the distance the top table. We had the top financial advisor, the branch manager, the sales director, the MD. And I was quite embarrassed with my newlywed wife. And I said, honey, next year we're going to sit on the top table. And I made sure that I worked hard, and we made it to the top table.
You did.
Out of the next 6 years, 5 years, I was number 1. So out of 130 advisors, a lot of them full-timers, I was part-timer, but I was by now working early shifts at BA. The beauty of working at Heathrow, I didn't have to do the day shift, so I could then start work at 6:30 in the morning, work there till 2:30, go to my Abbey office, do my admin work in Isleworth, Hounslow, and go there about 3:00 and do my admin work and make my appointments and calls. And I'll then be off to my appointment to see clients in the evenings from 6:30. I'd be lucky if I got home before 11 p.m.
I'm trying to think when you slept during this period of your life.
And then by then I was refereeing football and I was doing my
That's a
private
passion of
flying.
yours, isn't it?
And in between, with God's blessing, we're blessed with 3 kids. So Sunita, my wife, hardly saw me. And she used to have my photo pinned on the inside of our front door. If you see this man, let him in. He's your dad. She did that.
Oh, wow. I'm laughing, but at the same time, there's a sacrifice there.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here now, and we'll come to that, but you're sitting here as a normally successful businessman and entrepreneur. You put some graft in. One of my questions was going to be, how have you got to where you are? It's clear you just grafted, but that's also unsustainable. You did need to get some sleep and so on. Where did you start to flourish? What decisions did you make that allowed you to find your niche?
Obviously I was earning quite a lot of money in those days, in the 80s. And, Sunita and I had this wonderful understanding. You can't clap with one hand. You need both of you. And so she would look after the kids and the family. And we both had big dreams. We used to say, well, we want a nice house, nice cars, send the kids to private education. We should have a choice as a family. And then it's up to you if you want to put the hours in and the commitment. So Sunita would look after the household and my parents and my kids. And I would be out there working. And I remember the first 15 years of our married life, we only had 2 family holidays in 15 years. And my late father used to say to me, son, you're doing all these hours in, don't burn yourself out. And I didn't really take much notice of him. It's now obviously 65. And they say as you get older, you need less sleep. Well, I need 8 hours sleep minimum. If I don't have 8 hours sleep, then I can't function. And so, but, we've been very lucky and life's been kind. And then I say, of course, we all live in a great country, great nation, where it's easier to do business, easier to realize and achieve your dreams. You've got to have dreams first before you turn them into reality.
Yeah, you've mentioned luck a few times, but you make your own luck. And that graft, that experience that you were getting and got from Abbey and from Heathrow gave you a platform to then start thinking, obviously, beyond that and being more entrepreneurial. Because the entrepreneurial bit is I'm going to just work, I'm going to graft, I'm going to do the best I can in that environment. When did you stop being an employee and actually start being the entrepreneur?
So it was in the early 80s. And I used to say to my late mother and my wife, I'm doing British Airways, I'm doing Abbey Life, I'm also refereeing football and flying, and by then I'd started dabbling in property.
Right, okay.
So I'm doing all
just
these...
buying and selling or buying
renting,
and keeping? Right, so you're building a portfolio.
I'm building up a portfolio. So I used to say, I just can't take it anymore. My dear mum and wife used to say, don't give up British Airways, that's guaranteed salary, whereas the financial services is not guaranteed.
But that was the old school way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not getting paid?
The old school, and also, by the way, we get free travel and we get this. But it was finally in 88, I think it was April 88, when I didn't tell the girls at home and I just resigned from BA and, just couldn't take it anymore. So, and after that, life kind of really took off. So now I'm becoming self-employed and somehow, dabbling more in property and things just worked out. When you talk about being luckier in life, I think most of the world has heard the famous Gary Player, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. And I remember saying, and reading somewhere that what is luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. If you think about it, it's, you could be David Beckham, and if luck's not with you, you could keep hitting the crossbar and the post, and that day the ball's not going to go in the back of the net, but you're going to keep trying.
Yeah. But if you keep trying, you stay sharp. It's the comfort zone is where the dreams go to die.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of that. I've cookie cut in a business that I thought was trucking along, and then things move. And then when things move, like political or economic or the industry changes, and if you're not sharp and you're not staying, particularly with your work ethic, then you might not have been ready for the opportunity. And it feels like that's always been consistent with you. And tell me, because I know from a previous conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed with you, where you bought 4 B&Bs, you bought 4 properties, and you weren't sure what to do with them. And I think this summed up you as an entrepreneur to me. So tell me that story.
So it's really, a lot of people say, oh, Surinder, tell me your next 2, 5, 10-year plan. And I've always been very open, even to my bankers, that you either have strategist or opportunist. I'm an opportunist more than a strategist, because if I see an opportunity and the numbers work, if the deal works, if the whole business plan. So I actually started, one day I was going from my gym to driving home, and on the A4 Bath Road, I saw these 4 houses for sale in the auction. And I went to the auction, bought them. And this was 1993. And I paid £161,000 for these 4 houses. So like £40,000 each. They hadn't been lived in for 15, 20 years. Semi-derelict. One of them had a big crack on the side of the house, so that put a lot of people off. Structurally, it may not be sound or whatever. So I took the gamble, bought them, renovated them. And then I said to Sunita, I said, should we sell them, rent them? And then I thought, Heathrow, because I've always lived around Heathrow, worked around Heathrow, there's lots of hotels, but there's no B&Bs. So I said to Sunita, I said, honey, why don't we open up a B&B guest house, which is different from hotels, because not every passenger flying in and out or crew member wants to stay in a hotel. So we opened up this guest house, and in those days decided to call it HSA. And because I had no marketing expertise, and some of my friends would say, HSA? There's a private medical insurance called HSA. Oh, is it House of Surinder Arora? Is it Hospital for Sick Animals? What is it? And it was actually stood for Heathrow Standby Accommodation, which is long-winded. And in the early days, hardly anyone knew of us. Wouldn't get many customers in. So the way we set it up was we put another BT telephone line in our kitchen at home. So my dear Sunita will take the bookings, so she's a booking hotline. I would run around and check the guest in, and one of our neighbours, young mum Linda, would do my housekeeping. So team of 3. And then I said to Sunita, I said, next time there's a delay at Heathrow, disruption, fog, delays, I'm going to run into the airport. I'm going to tell everyone we got B&B at Heathrow. So sure enough, one day there was Saturday evening, fog at Heathrow. In those days, technology wasn't as good as it is today. So there was a lot of delays. I ran into T1 carrying this box, A5s and leaflets, and I started dishing out to these poor people on the floor and sitting there. And within 5 minutes, I get a tap on the shoulder, and there's a policeman. What are you doing? And I said, all these poor people staying here and they're sleeping on the floor. I've got B&B, £25 a night. And he said, get off. This is owned by Heathrow Airport. You can't do it without their consent. So as I was leaving, I saw at the corner of my eye, Exportel booking agency. So I rang them on the Monday and said, I have an idea. I've got a B&B, which will be cheaper than the hotels. And the first thing the guy said, we charge commission. And I said, well, what do you charge? 20%. So I said, okay, well, instead of £25, I'll charge £30, and you can have your 20% and I'll get my £25. Well, let me think about it. He rang me the next day and said, sorry, Mr. Arora, I'm selling rooms at the Ibis at Heathrow, $34.95. And there's a shuttle bus, and the guests have an ensuite room. With you, it's a typical house, 3 rooms upstairs, 2 downstairs. They have to share the bathroom. They've got to make their own way. No, thank you. So I then put the phone down, went to the Ibis and just checked and inquired. And I rang this guy back and I said, Mr. Shah, I said, at the Ibis, they, yes, have a shuttle bus, but they have to pay £1.50 each way. So if you're a couple, you've got to pay £3 there, £3 back. And it's room only. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll charge £30 and we'll do free continental breakfast. We'll do free pickup in white BMWs there and back.
Which was probably your BMW.
Which was my BMW.
Yeah.
And I said, and you can have your 20% commission. And he said, great, done, deal. Within a matter of hours, we filled up like hotcakes. It was just incredible. So from there on, I bought the other houses. And then a lot of the crew from British Airways used to come and stay with us. And they'll say, we love New York and we hate Heathrow. And I said, tell me why. Well, New York, the hotel's owned by British Airways. We get treated like royalty, good security. Heathrow, we stay in different hotel, don't get good security. We get treated like cattle class. So that's where really my houses were right opposite the crew center. So I didn't know anyone in crew because I used to work in cargo. So I then dropped a letter by hand saying, I own the land opposite your crew center. Would you like me to build a crew hotel? Never expecting to hear from them. And suddenly, a couple of days later, get a call saying, can you come next Tuesday, give us 1 hour presentation? And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? So I took this fellow, Saeed, who had built my extension at home as an architect. And I said, you need to come and hold my hand. Well, we went in, and that 1 hour presentation lasted 20 minutes because they realized these two jokers haven't got a clue. And we'll come back to you. And they didn't for 2.5 months. And I bumped into the hotel contracts manager and I said, Mr. Clark, he never came back to me. Oh, Mr. Arora, your site's not big enough. And unless we have minimum 200 rooms, it's not worthwhile I'm moving. And my head of property says we won't get more than 150 rooms. So it was a challenge. And then I said to him, suppose if I spend money and I take the risk and I get the planning, he said, you get planning for more than 200 rooms? Come and talk to us. So it was a challenge, and it took me a good 18 months. Initially, I got rejected from the planners, and it's too big, too much. In the end, we managed to get planning for 270 bedrooms. And then I went running back, and the rest was history. And
there's so much there. Like from an entrepreneur's point of view, how many times would someone have given up or gone, oh, didn't work, go and do something else? Whereas you were like, I'll try this, I'll try that. And that's the bit where you said earlier about, you make your own luck. And then that whole mindset that's taken you through that journey has allowed you to flourish with a portfolio now.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, at that time, the planning manager, the first reaction was, Mr. Arora, that's all you can have. Shrink the building, it's too big. Take top two floors off. And I went back and I said, but Mr. McGill, I'm only left with 140 rooms. I'm a one-man band. No bank's going to lend me tens of millions to build this super-duper 4-star hotel. His exact words to me was, Mr. Arora, that's your problem, not mine. Bugger off. Now, if I had listened and just basically walked away, I wouldn't be sitting here today employing nearly 3,000 people. And then the journey, we built a second hotel at Heathrow, a third one at Gatwick, bought one in Manchester. And then I heard that Heathrow Airport were going to build Terminal 5. And they're going to tender the project, the only hotel connected to the terminal. And I ran off and I thought, oh, this is great. I'd love to build a hotel connected to the terminal. And I went and saw the MD of BAA Heathrow Airport. And I said, would you consider me, because I've got experience at Heathrow and Gatwick? And the first thing he said was, what brand? And I said, Arora, all my 4 hotels. And no, thank you, Mr. Arora. We're going to build a £4.5 billion terminal. Unless we have a 5-star international brand, we won't invite you on the tender list. And before I left him, I said, suppose if I bring an international brand with me, you do that? We'll put you on the tender list.
You've got a very quick mind, because there's a consistency there. Every time something that you're thinking on the spot and you go away with a potential solution to come back. I don't want to break your flow. But...
So I just really, I left his office straight away, started ringing all the big Marriott, Intercontinental, Accor, and they all said, you can build it, you can own it, but we must manage we never franchise our 5-star brand to anyone, all the big brands. And I said, no, I'm going to only work with someone who is going to let me run it. And they all said no, including Hyatt in Chicago and Accor, Sofitel in the UK. So I then wrote to the chairman in Paris and I explained my experience around the airport, but I'm only going to work with someone I said, please, will you just come and see my hotel, how we run them? And they said, initially, but Mr. Arora, we never franchise. You can have Novotel, Ibis, Mercure, but we never franchise Sofitel. And 2.5 months later, I get a call from Paris saying, we have never franchised Sofitel to anyone before, but we've been sending mystery guests to your properties and really like the way you operate. and we're going to make an exception, give you a franchise. My God, I can't tell you how I felt. And then we went through the tender process. Heathrow Airport invited 12 companies, all the big boys. And Marriott had 2 bids in, Marriott International and Marriott UK. At that time, it was owned by Whitbread. And after, when it went down to 6, one of them got in, the other one didn't. So they then joined forces as JW Marriott. So we were there, Sofitel, and then it got down to the last 2, and it was us and JW Marriott. And everyone in the marketplace said, Arora, no chance, the bid's gone to Marriott. And I was in Scotland when I got the call from CBRE, their advisors, saying, we've got some news you may want to hear. And I drove around about 5 times because I just... And then when we did open the hotel, I walked John Halloran, the MD of BA Linton Property Arm, and I said, John, I hope I've met your expectations. He was a very senior man, very serious. And he said, no, Surinder, you haven't. And I got nervous, and he said, no, you exceeded my expectations. And when that hotel was open, it got voted as the best new airport hotel in the world. And now after 15 years, last October, we were still the best airport hotel in the world. So that's what I take pride in, not me, but my team, that really, I think you believe in something, then, you go for it. And, in life, you do get hunters and farmers.
Sure.
And I was taught by my late mum, son, never ever be a hunter, don't go for a quick kill. In the long term, you'll be far better off as a farmer.
I love that. The fact that you related to that point of your story and you went back to your mum, and I was going to say those values, I imagine, in fact, I know you are by sheer motivation and inspiration instilling into all your team. So when it goes back to the kind of the quality control, if you like, that went into you getting the Sofitel, that was rippling through. You never stopped consistently making sure that you didn't turn it on when it was needed. It's always a constant. I think that's such an important message.
Look, we're humans. We're human beings. We make mistakes like anyone else. The only thing I always say to the team, make mistakes, just never repeat them, learn from them, make new mistakes. That's the only way we'll get better.
So what you're really saying is fail and fail fast, but don't dwell on it. Move on. How many times could we relate to that?
Exactly.
Things you just say. But flipping the narrative, flipping the scenario there, the opposite is success. You're sitting here, incredibly successful as a businessman, and you've got a lovely contentment about you, not in an arrogant way, just, achieving success. How would you define success right now?
A lot of people will say, what's in my bank account, or where am I on rich list, or what do I have materialistic, but that's not everything in life. I think it's really, how do you feel? How does one feel? Whether it's the family, whether it's the comforts of life, whether, different people have different things on their list for being success. My best friend from school, very happy, very normal. My elder brother, my sister-in-law was headmistress at junior school, and she always said, I want my hubby to be home on a Friday night, 6 o'clock, and be with me for the weekend. Whereas then you have Mug Surinder or others. So I think it's just really, it's not, for me, it's never been, whether it's the size of your bank balance or checkbook or what you have materially. It's what we want, what drives you. I mean, what drives me, for example, I'm 65. Sanjay, my son, is, I remember saying to my dear wife, when he was 9 years old and he gave a speech at the first hotel when he was opened by Cliff Richard, and I said, I was nervous. 9-year-old's going to mess it up. He was better than his dad. And I remember saying to Sunita, one day my son's going to be better than his dad. And I've never, ever changed my opinion, my views. But, I've always said to him, don't think of dad as disappearing in the sunset. And I love working. But it's just getting the right balance in life. And that's what I'm getting now. It's just...
I can feel that. And I love the fact there's no destination there. And the fact that at 65, you're not done yet at all. And you've built this portfolio, you've got this loving family, but I know there's other things that you really want to make happen. Tell me about that, because I know there's things bubbling away.
So look, there's always things bubbling, and that's what makes me jump out of
Yeah,
bed.
2 deals done this morning. That's what you told me when you came in. Still wheeling and
So,
dealing.
and then 2 years ago, we were blessed, lucky that we bought a place called Luton Hoo, which sits just south of the airport, and it's the most incredible estate I've ever seen, come across. A lot of history. Her Majesty spent a lot of time there, including a honeymoon and other times. Churchill gave a speech after the Second World War to 110,000 people in the grounds. So it's got a lot of history and character. Beautiful grounds, capability ground. So when we acquired it 2 years ago, and with my previous involvement with Wentworth, we then looked into this, and we're on the short list for 31 Ryder Cup. And I'm very blessed, and I think it's the dream I have is to create the Augusta of Europe. So it's a bit of a legacy project. We're going to upgrade the hotel to a Fairmont and make it really the best. It's so close to London, whether it's children friendly, whether it's business friendly, whether it's spa days, whatever we will do with that. It'll be learning from the Fairmont at Windsor. This will be far better. So that's one dream. And the other dream is, of course, the project Heathrow West. I've lived and spent all my life around Heathrow. And, always said that there's nothing wrong. But when I came to England in 1972, Heathrow was the busiest international airport in the world and one of the cheapest airports in the world. Today, we're not the busiest international airport in the world, and we're the most expensive airport in the world. When you look at other airports, whether it's Schiphol, whether Frankfurt, whether Dublin, for example, we're more than 3 times expensive. So it's such a huge business. And I've always said that really at the end of the day, it's not just about competition or anything else. I think it's something that, whether it's me, you, or others, just making Heathrow more efficient and actually installing that hospitality experience. I wasn't a hotelier, but it's something I'd learned from my football refereeing days. I've got the red and yellow cards in my pocket, but if I want those 22 players to respect me, I have to respect them first. So when I opened my first hotel, I said to my general manager, can we be different from other hotels? I don't want to be known just as a hotel company. He said, how do you do that, boss? And I said, we treat our staff like family and our guests like royalty. So what I want to do is really, why can't we look after our passengers traveling through the airport and being treated like royalty? Things will go wrong, so that's a big dream.
Based on the previous stories, I wouldn't bet against you achieving both of those. And actually, storytelling, I imagine if we had longer, you are full of stories. You're writing a book, which I can't wait to read. If there's one story from your journey, and almost like a message that says people that will be watching this from an aspirational point of view, from a fellow investor point of view, fellow property, that they would learn from your journey and what you've achieved, what would it be?
Well, life is it's like a wave. It's never a straight line. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. We take the peaks and troughs, and we built up the business very quickly, starting in 1999 to where we are today, building up a company for over £2.5 billion company, employing nearly 3,000 people. And after the 2008 crisis, we had a big awakening in a sense. At that time, I was over-geared, over-trading, and you learn from that, make mistakes and learn and make new ones. So I remember saying to myself, had a lot of sleepless nights, because I remember one night, Sunita sleeping next to me on my right, and I cried so much that you could have squeezed water out of the pillow. And I'm saying, honey, what have I done to you and the kids? I'm not sure we're going to be left with our house, our cars, we're going to lose everything. And then I suddenly wake up and say, it's not just my family, my wife and kids. It's my other, at that time we had about 1,800 employees. They've got rent to pay, bills to pay, mortgages to pay. I'm not going to take the chicken route and just walk away from my problem. I'm going to challenge it. So we went through a lot of those hurdles. And I said, I never want to be there again at the beck and call of the lenders, as such that if you overgear, the lenders, the banks, the institutions that lend you hundreds of millions, they also got to protect their shareholders. They're my partners, stakeholders. So I need to make sure we respect, but I just don't want to be there so stretched. So we learned from that, and we've come away as a company that, pray to God, now being sort of sub 30% geared, that we know we can ride through COVID or other times. And you work hard to make sure that you're stable. And so one of the things of writing the book, I never used to think about writing a book, but was really part of our debt was sold by Allied Irish Bank, who were my longest relationship, and they sold my debt to a US hedge fund, DK, Davidson Kempner. Nice people, but they were very open and honest with me when I asked them at the first meeting, what's your intent? And they said, Surinder, we're here to make as much money as we can. We'll do it with you and we'll do it without you. So I'd always say to my wife and kids, just imagine your dad was in the jungle with the hyenas and we had to get away from them. And we did work very hard, because once you're in the clutches of a hedge fund, your history, you're gone. So if I can share that with other businesses, other people, how we came out of it and how we came through, because people will say, a lot of people think they're winners when they're on top of the hill. In my world, the real winners are down the valleys, pushing themselves up.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the way you told that. I could talk to you all day, but we've run out of time. But
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time to talk to me today.
Pleasure. Thank you.